City.
Actually, that's spot on.
It is spot on.
All the competition that try to compete.
Everything is spot on.
You know, he just came to the end of the NBA season. LeBron and them went ahead and did it for Kobe, as a lot of people predicted. Let's not get too let's go ahead and just look ahead and let's see, who do y'all guys think could be a possible favorite in the 2021 finals? Like, who do y'all see as becoming the champion? Who do y'all see as favorites?
Honestly, I think right now it's kind of crazy to put anybody as the favorites over the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that when you look at a lot of teams that, the Warriors may be coming back next year, obviously the Bucks are going to be somewhat of a contender with Giannis and the team that they put together. You don't know what's going to happen with the Clippers, but you would assume that they're going to be back in some sense. I'm a huge KD fan, so I may be a little biased, but I'm excited to see what the Nets look like next year with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. I think that they could easily come out the East. Have to give the utmost respect to the Miami Heat, who just made it to the finals. Obviously, they're the defending Eastern Conference champions, so I can't just write them off, even though I think they're at a talent deficit in the East. But like I said, right now, I just think it's disrespectful to put anybody over LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. They just kind of dominated the West. They took care of business, won every game besides the finals in the gentleman's sweep, 5 games. Anthony Davis, I think he's only going to get better with LeBron James. He's going to continue to get hungrier. And I think, honestly, if you look at a lot of the other teams, they don't really have the flexibility to get a lot better. But I think the Lakers can come back with an even better roster next year than they had this year. So they have a lot of one-year deals and player options. They can move some stuff around. And, you got a lot of star players around the league that are trying to, get their way to LA any way that they can. So, like I said, I think if we're just basically going off of the information we have, then it's crazy to put anybody above LeBron James, and the Lakers right now is the favorites for next year's title.
I totally agree with what John is saying in terms of the Lakers. It is disrespectful. We saw what LeBron just did. He steamrolled the West like they said he wouldn't. They said he could only do that in the East. He did that. He goes to the championship and he wins it in 6 games. We can't argue with that. Then you got another guy in Anthony Davis who top 6, no question. I mean, I think he's top 5. And then if you look at it, he's only going to get better now that he has somebody who now could teach him what it means to win a championship. LeBron needed it with D-Wade, got that, then he elevated. Now AD has that guy and has a championship under his belt. I mean, we can only imagine. And then, like John said, they have assets in LA. They have assets to move to get a 3rd star. I would not be surprised to wake up in the morning and see Bradley Beal being traded to the Lakers or Victor Oladipo. I would not be surprised. But at the same time, we understand something we said coming into this year is this might be the most balanced the team has been in, the league has been in a long time. And we look at everywhere got these duos. I still think the Clippers could be a heck of a team. I think we can all agree on that. And then whoever their coach is, if they can somehow have the secret remedy to Paul George in the playoffs, I mean, come on. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen with the role players. We know Montrezl Harrell could maybe not be there. Some other guys might not be able to be there, but shoot, we see what happens with the Lakers. If you have 2 bona fide stars, I mean, come on now. And so I would not be surprised if the Clippers were in the Western Conference Finals and possibly, I don't believe it, but, I wouldn't be surprised. The Clippers, in certain circumstances, go to the finals next year. But then the real question, I believe, is one, is Giannis. Can he make that step? I don't believe so. I was on record saying I think they would go to the finals, and he didn't do that, and I'm now a disbeliever. But the real question is KD really that man in the NBA? When KD went to the Warriors, we were all thinking, dang, is it time to say KD is the best player in the NBA? Is it time? That was the question. But for me, once he went to the Warriors, it's hard to evaluate that with that perfect setting to play in with the shooters all around him. I mean, you can't even get double teamed anymore. So when I look at KD, if he can take that step where, like, we look at LeBron, how he steamrolled the East, it might be KD's East for a while. And a good question also is Kyrie Irving going to be healthy? Is Kyrie Irving going to be healthy? And if he can stay healthy, and I know KD and him are like best friends, I think it could work. and they have a great supporting cast. I mean, I know there's a couple questionable guys they'll stay, but they have a great supporting cast. Like I'd say a good 3 more guys other than those 2 that could drop 30 on any given day. And that's something we were looking for in Kuzma that I don't think we could really look for him to get 30 any given day. And so I think it's a possibility the Nets can be on a different level. And let's not forget the Golden State Warriors. They have a system that we all been trying to replicate. So I think there's big question marks, but you got to go with the LA Lakers for this year at this point.
Yeah, I think Jamar really just took both my points. He must be in my playbook, but he just took my both points. I really was going to mention the Nets and the Warriors, but he made 2 great points. So a team that we haven't mentioned yet that I think is on the rise, I think when you talk about in the NBA, what you need the most to win is superstars. And I think a player that really etched himself into that top 5 conversation and that superstar level, the type of player that can improve everybody around him, and he can just go out there and make crazy stuff happen. It can dominate a game or dominate a series and leave his imprint on every play, is Luka Doncic. And I look at the way that they're coached. They have a championship level coach in Rick Carlisle. You have Luka Doncic. You have a great second player I have a lot of faith in Kristaps Porzingis, who any given night can get you 30 and 10 if he's healthy. Great role players and Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, Seth Curry. They got a lot of scrappy guys on that team. And so I think that's a team that can make some noise. I don't know if they can get past a LeBron James or a Kawhi Leonard, but that's the team on the rise. Like I said, Luka's in that top 5 conversation. And I think it's only a matter of time before he gets an MVP and ultimately a championship, because I look at Luka as a player like LeBron. Obviously, I'm not comparing him to LeBron. I'm not saying he's LeBron, but he has that LeBron-type level impact on his team, on the floor, and on the game, and ultimately on the series. We saw what he did on that Clippers series. Even down Kristaps Porzingis, he had the Clippers sweating. So, I think he's up next. And, they definitely, next year they could take that step sooner than later, sooner than we all think they should.
And I definitely agree with you, John. As a Mavericks fan, I definitely agree that Luka is the next LeBron if we really look at it in terms of the way he plays the game. He's the next LeBron. He is the generational talent of the NBA coming up next. But I think we really look at it. We look at like a Jordan era. When that guy was in his prime, there was nobody coming out of that conference really. There was a block. You weren't going to win a championship. It was all these guys that were great players but couldn't win a championship. I don't think Luka and the Mavericks personally can do that until LeBron's out of his prime. I think when we go to the playoffs, I just got to give that edge to LeBron. But I do believe when you give it 2 years, I said this. I think the next 2 years are LeBron years. But after that, the Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr. get a little better depending on how they keep the nucleus around, and a Bobo and all the rest of the guys like Jamal Murray and all of them, and Jokic, all of them in Denver, the Mavericks, some other places looking kind of spicy. Who knows where the Pelicans are in 2 years? The West could look spicy in a couple years. There's a lot of potential. But I think when we're talking about exactly next year, I don't know. But Luka has taken big steps, So who's to say there's not another big step? LeBron, another type of step, and LeBron with AD is another type of step, and the potential of them getting another star is crazy. But I definitely agree with you, John.
Yeah, both of y'all made some really good points. I just wanted to add to what y'all said with the Lakers. I think if they did add somebody, it'll be like super, super scary. But we also have to keep in mind that all these teams had like a 3 to 4 month break. Given that LeBron is at the age that he's at, I'm sure that break helped tremendously. So seeing all these teams next year, playing a full stretch of games during the season and then rolling right into the playoffs like we usually see them, and these players being wear down and tired, playoffs might look slightly different next year than what they did this year. But we'll have to wait around and see.
Yeah, I just one thing, and I'm not even I guess, in this world we live in, you got to pick sides. So if I'm a KD fan, that means I'm not a LeBron fan, but I have great respect for LeBron. But one point that Nick Wright said, even though he isn't a LeBron apologist, a blind witness, what he did say was that, when you look at LeBron, like the standard that he's held himself to is just crazy. And we look at Jimmy Butler, what he did in Game 5, right? He had a LeBron-type night. And then he came back in Game 6 and he was completely out of gas. So I think regardless of the break, I think that's been overblown in LeBron's sense because he's in year 17. And I'm not saying you're doing this, but I think analysts have used that to take away from LeBron. Will he had 5 months off? He's in year 17. That's why he was able to dominate the playoffs. I think if LeBron has shown us anything, it's that he can give this effort on a nightly basis, whether he's playing 82 games a year, 70 games a year. He's never missed a playoff game. He's played 3 full seasons worth of playoff games. So I think regardless if LeBron has 5 months off or not, you're going to see this LeBron in the playoffs regardless because, I mean, that's just who LeBron James is.
And the scary thing about it was the Lakers was playing Madden during the finals. Every night, having Madden wars. I know this kind of off topic, but it's crazy. Yep, in the hotel playing video games while you're playing the finals. That just attests to like if he was truly focused, you know, if they were like fully focused, fully locked in, like we typically do see Bron. You know, we might even see LeBron at a totally another level next year.
Yeah, and I honestly think you're gonna see a hungrier LeBron. I know LeBron wanted to prove a lot of people wrong this year, and he did. But you also still got people talking about, well, it was in the bubble. Well, it was an asterisk, or well, you didn't play the Clippers, or you played the 5 seed Miami Heat. So I think next year when people think the league is more balanced out and it's fair, he's just going to come back and show us again. And just one last thing, because I know it's cliche, but I think LeBron literally is built different, you know? And, you know,
I'll say one more thing before we get off. I don't think LeBron could be any hungrier, and I don't think the variables of people saying this and this and that. I mean, LeBron has dealt with that since he was 16 years old. I mean, I don't think any more type of motivation will change. I think he's at that peak level of motivation. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna always have doubt. He's gonna always have that. So I think LeBron is just what you did. You know, he's a stat. He's a number we can't even track on the graph. You know. So I don't think that motivation will even be a variable. I think he's gonna go out there until his body gives out. Because Father Time gotta come sometime. So we'll see about that. But
We thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to check out more shows here on this YouTube page, such as SOS Discussions or My Point Exactly. And most of all,
keep watching Spot On Sports!
it's a new wave of sports that's sweeping the nation. We're not just accurate, spot on.